Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Trap. So, Trap begins with a high concept, a very catchy premise, and a very engaging, if not wholly original, anti hero. It sets up some good, motivated drama within the father and the daughter. However, once the external conflict gets started, the story becomes progressively disappointing. First and foremost, I found the cat and mouse tactics kind of underwhelming. I mean, that's the whole thing with this movie. And a lot of times it relies heavily on contrivances, on easy opposition, and it also is kind of repetitive. From there, the plot really starts to devolve into excessive twists. There's a point where the plot really kind of switches gears and just kind of loses sight of where it's going, and it really kind of becomes a struggle to stick with. It really starts with this thrust of momentum and just kind of peters out. Um, the movie does consistently develop the protagonist, but it feels kind of like a scattershot of superficial psychoanalysis and incomplete relationship arcs. It's weird because in the first act, it really sets up his relationship with his daughter, but in the third act, it really pays off his relationship with his wife. And it just doesn't make much sense. It seems like the movie should have picked one or the other and done it at both points. There's also unnatural dialogue. The exposition is randomly very, very obvious and forced. There's a little Deus Ex Machina, which is kind of strange, like unnecessary. Like I said, the setup and payoff can feel misaligned, specifically with the relationship arcs. And there's some inconsistencies where characters will act differently depending on what the plot needs from them. On the flip side, Josh Hartnett, he is great. He really elevates all of this. He's like a force of layers, of facial expressions, very like layered in his facial expressions. He's intense, but it's very controlled. You can feel like this internalized intensity that does come out every now and then. And he's charismatic. He's evil, but charismatic, which is compelling. And his family, his daughter and his wife, they have a lot of chemistry with him, and they both show good vulnerability. There is one key supporting character who I feel like isn't quite to that level. They don't really meet Hartnett's. Hartnett really sets a good tone with the acting, and not everyone meets that. So overall, I feel like from a script, emotional, dramatic perspective, Trap starts strong but loses its way. Um, Technically, Trap aims for this psychological tension, but kind of becomes monotonous. I think this is most obvious in the editing, which despite having a short runtime and a brisk pace, just gradually fumbles momentum and structure. That I think structure is the key issue here. Like I said, the movie switches gears at some point, and then it just kind of becomes um, nebulous. It's like, is this the climax? Is that the climax? Scene after scene, I just found myself more and more hoping the movie's just going to end, and it just kind of keeps going. And even before that, when the movie is still sticking to its high concept, the momentum just keeps petering out. It's just kind of like I said, there's this exciting thrust of external conflict, and it just never does much to keep that momentum going. The imagery, on the other hand, I think is very, very interesting. It's very claustrophobic in its framing. A lot of center framing and the actors looking right into the camera, which is very claustrophobic. A lot of barriers confining the characters, lines in the shot, like frames within frames. Um, the motion is very motivated, where it's showing things that are about to happen. Um, and it's shaky only like one time, and it's very intentional. The lighting is varied. The focus has a couple flashy moments, and there's a couple interesting composition shots where the protagonist's face is half in frame on the edge of the shot. I found that very interesting, and probably those were my favorite shots of the whole movie. Um, from a sound perspective, there's a lot of atmosphere. There's a few distortions, stings. It's intentionally quiet a couple times, and there's a symbolic diegetics, like a tea kettle whistling indicates rising tension. There is a scene where the singing dubbing, is very unconvincing, which was distracting. But besides that, the sound is good. Um, on that note, I found the music pretty common. It's plot relevant, and there's a lot of pop hits, but I found those pop hits pretty forgettable. And the scoring is very thriller with the stingy strings, but nothing really stuck out to me as memorable. It does its job, but little more than that. The production design has a clear sense of location, setting. It's a concert, but I don't think it could have been clearer. It could have really played a real stronger role in the movie where we as an audience are really getting a good sense of the layout of this concert and really seeing that play a part in the plot. And it doesn't really. It's just kind of like window dressing. As for the cast, of course, Hartnett is great. He's like against type. It's kind of like a comeback for him. It's wonderful. He is the one great thing about this movie that I cannot deny. But unfortunately, the casting also has some pretty key nepotism, which I have to diminish the score for that. It's not just nepotism, but nepotism in a very central place, and I think that negatively affects the movie. Um, the effects are pretty minimal, surprisingly minimal, but they do their job. They're proficient. Um, so yeah, all together, I think Trap is pretty mixed. I wanted to like it, and I started off liking it, but I kind of slowly found myself never hating it, but not liking it that much. I grew indifferent towards it. Um, if you're a fan of his work, I think this is not bad. It's a decent thriller, but I can't say much more than that. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram, which I'll link in the description. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.